G'day, everyone. Welcome. How are we all this evening? And welcome back to Star Season Patriots of Down Under. Hey, I've got a bit of a special show this evening. Welcome, Bob. How are you, mate?
I'll be very well, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, it's been a pretty good week. Been a pretty good week, up and down with everything that's going on around the world, and also all the energies that are coming in as well. At the moment, it's been pretty wild ride indeed, hasn't
Certainly has. It's certainly
it?
fooled me. This week. Just busy week, but even more tired than usual. So yeah, energies are certainly playing havoc.
Yeah, they have been, mate. It's been certainly getting me and giving me a few migraines, and I've had a fair few sleeps myself. It's been really good, eh? It's catching up on sleep that I've obviously definitely needed. That's for sure. That's for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
And I just want to say to our audience this evening that's joining in with us, please forgive us for our slight lateness. We actually we're in the middle of actually getting a download that I was desperately needing for future presentations. So I do apologise for the slight lateness and delay in our start of the show tonight. But we've got a special one tonight, a little bit different. Instead of just doing what we normally do with disclosing truths, exposing different technologies and programs, etc. We've got a little bit of history tonight instead. And in saying that, we're going to be talking about the treasure of the wreck from of the unbelievable. It's a story that I came across around about 7 years ago now, and I watched a documentary on it on Netflix around about probably 3 years ago now. It came out on Netflix, but it's been removed since. But yeah, this particular shipwreck that was found was just the most amazing story I've actually ever come across of a shipwreck in my time. And I thought it would be interesting to share some of that with everyone and yourself, Bob, this evening, because it's one of those things that kind of leaves you scratching your head when you look at some of the artworks that we're going to be presenting this evening, and you kind of look at it and go, "How the hell was that made? Like, how is that possible with the current building quality and technology that's available to us today?" Looking at some of these things that we've got prepared tonight for our photos has actually um, left me baffled to a lot of a degree. I'm just sitting there scratching my head. So yeah, in saying that, I reckon we should just what I'll do is I'll actually just read you just a few of the things that I've actually written down. If you don't mind, is that okay, Bob?
Yeah, absolutely. Fully boots, mate.
Cool. Because this is, as I said, slightly different for us tonight, and so I thought I'd do a bit of research this week and actually sit there and watch the doco again, and actually write down a few main bullet points that are important that the audience should actually look at. And even if they want to, they can still look this documentary up. It's still available on YouTube. You can actually watch it in whole if you can put up with ads. That is because it is a paid promotion, etc. But you'll see that this documentary is still available, and you can see it in total online and on YouTube. And I thought, just by sitting there watching this and writing down a few things that would be quite interesting for the rest of the audience. Tonight we've got not just only photos, but I've also got video footage that I've taken from the actual documentary, just small bits, increments that I've added into the show as well that I can just play for us as well, just to show us how these things were brought up from the ocean floor, and just the actual operation and the logistics of it, and how far these individuals went to actually bring back to civilization things that have been lost in the ocean, for God knows how long. But not just that, the treasures themselves, even though they were down, went down in the ocean, a few hundred years ago, these treasures are made from a time that is far further back in history that we can possibly even imagine. I'm thinking possibly Lemurian, Atlantean, Dwarka, India, all these sorts of great mystical places, that had existed at some point or another in the past. But what I've gotten down here, written down so far, is like the expedition itself started in 2010, but it wasn't discovered until 2 years. It was actually discovered 2 years earlier, in 2008, by a few fishermen that were out fishing in their local village, and this is off in the Indian Ocean off the east coast of Africa. This is when the site was first found. Now, it was just by chance that the actual fishermen were bringing up from the bottom of the ocean their nets from their local catch, and it just so happened to be that they found a golden monkey in a posed position where it was holding a piece of corn and scratching its head. Now, this spider monkey, because that's exactly what it is, was made of solid gold, and it was just beautiful, like it was freshly made the day it was made. And God knows how long it had been down there, but they made a small video of it, saying "Fisherman finds gold monkey," and that was it. And we had pretty much a gentleman. I'm actually looking for his name now. Sorry, next page. Sorry. Dr. Peter Weiss. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's his name. Yes, Peter Weiss. And he pretty much was doing a thesis on ancient cultures at the Technische University of Heidelberg in Germany. And it started for him basically in 2008 when he discovered, in 2010 when he discovered the video, but the actual video wasn't made until 2008, sorry. Okay, was running out of funds, he was, in his thesis, and he found a simple clip of the fishing village finding the actual monkey. Clip was called, back then, as I said, Fisherman Discovers a Golden Statue. Peter's logic from then pretty much led him to the thought pattern of, I'm running out of funds, I need a financier, and I'm interested in this. I'm going to go and track this down. So he actually went and tracked down the fishing village where this was filmed at. And from there, everything just bloomed. They went out for about a period of probably 5-6 days. I think about 5 days they were diving constantly every day, trying to look for this site around the local area where they found this gold monkey originally. And after basically 5 days of full dives all day, every day, they finally found the site. And they was like, yep, we found the site. And mapping of this area pretty much started straight away once he was able to get in contact with a gentleman that was actually world renowned for finding certain treasures and of antiquity. And so he tracked him down. They got him out to the site. They started mapping the area and squaring it off with the cross-section grid lines that they do to actually survey and write down whatever artifacts are there. And things just progressed in such a massive way so quickly. It was beautiful to see how many people were willing to just come on board openly and just sharing this beautiful experience in hopefully bringing up something from the bottom of the ocean floor that people haven't been able to hold, see, or touch for better part of what was 56 AD. That's the first century. This is when the boat went down. Now, just to touch base on a couple of these things as well for you guys, there was no actual clear indication at that point in time when the mapping started of what was actually down there. It was actually not until after they went down for this, with crews, when they started doing the grid lines, they actually started finding small bits and pieces. Now, the professor that was in charge of this operation, his name was Professor Andrew Lerner, and he's from the Department of Archaeology and the Centre for Maritime Studies at Aberdeen. He's got 30 plus years of experience in the actual maritime archaeological industry, and that's the gentleman who pretty much was called out by this Andrew Weiss, I believe. Sorry, not Andrew Weiss, Peter Weiss, who discovered the original video online. Now, we've also got another gentleman by the name of Dr. Piotr, spelled as Piotr, Kilmek. Okay, he's from the Department of Archaeology as well in Guinea Marine Archaeology Institute. And we've got also a couple of other people like Dr. Abdi Didinal. He's also a local dive instructor, and he dived on ours. This is the gentleman who actually did the 5 days, such diving day in, day out until they found the site. And funding is exactly what they needed once they found the site and started mapping. And this is where a gentleman by the name of Damien Hirst Now, Damien Hirst comes into it in a way that he's actually an artist, worldwide known artist. Have you ever heard of him at all, Bob?
No, I haven't.
Okay, this guy is called the pretty much the pickling shark man, the guy who likes to pickle sharks. And he took a bull shark and uh, many different artworks, but this particular bull shark he encapsulated in resin. Okay, and it sold for $2.1 million at auction, just alone, for a pickled
Wow.
shark. Yeah, it's one pretty pickle, as they said in the documentary. It's quite expensive. But as such, just knowing what this guy's done, some of these artworks that he's done are quite a little bit out there, a little bit left, a little bit far out. But he had this passion as a child that always brought him to the ocean. He was always infatuated with stories of shipwrecks and pirates and all that sort of stuff. And when he was approached by Peter Weiss about this story, he just found it absolutely insatiable to just sit there and go, "Yeah, I'm in." He just found it completely beautiful. It was like a childhood dream come true, and he decided to finance the whole operation. And now, Damien, you got also another lady by the name of Dr. Lisa Howe. Okay, she's from the University of Glasgow in Scotland. Okay, and also Mr. Rungwei Kingdon, who's also a consultant and metallurgist. Okay, now keys to this story of this shipwreck pretty much start to unfold very quickly as to how things are going to travel with this story coming to light. And they found a coin straight away within the first few hours of taking down the vacuum that they have to suck the ocean floor, and just by chance before they got to, because as the sand gets sucked up, you'll see something glint out of the corner of your eye. Well, they saw this coin before it got sucked up, and they picked up the coin, and it turned out that the coin was from the era of 56 AD of Emperor Nero, Rome.
Wow.
Okay, and so this coin gave them a starting point in, say, history, where they could start to look for what this shop, what the ship's name was, and whom owned it, and where it was, what its destination was possibly, and where its origin was coming from. And so, we found out, the first century AD is quite a long time ago, considering. And so they had a baseline for their time, for a baseline for their timeline that they had found, and so basically it took them in a direction that they didn't think it would go. It took them to a point where I don't know how to say it. It was baffling because this was on the east coast of Africa for starters. What was this ship doing there when it's a Roman ship? Okay, in 56 AD, that was the question. That was really baffling most of these scientists and metallurgists and archaeologists and maritime archaeologists. And what happened was they came across a keel bolt, and this keel bolt was 2 to 3 times the size of any keel bolt holding any boat together back then, and it actually had been sheared off on one side. So they had to try and computer render again what this ship bolt would look like in an absolute hole, such without the sheared off piece, to try and gauge a size as to how big the ship was. It turns out, I have photos of this as well that I'll be sharing. This ship was 50% larger than anything that was being built at that point in time. So it was quite a large ship. So people looked like basically toothpicks on this thing. And to say the least, I mean, if any of you know about the story of Ulysses from Greece and the story of the Argo was supposed to be a large ship as well. But this thing was 50% bigger than that.
Wow.
Well, 25, I should say, 25% bigger, because the Argo, it was 25% bigger than most ships back then. And this was 50% bigger than most ships. So that's an extra 25% bigger than the Argo. Quite a large ship.
Yeah, Chris, what was the name of the documentary that you're talking
Treasures.
about?
Yeah, it's called Treasures from the Wreck of the Treasures from the Wreck of the Unbelievable.
Rightio.
Yes, it's a very awesome documentary.
Yeah, is that on YouTube or?
Yeah, it's available on YouTube, mate. Absolutely, yeah. You can watch it on YouTube. It was available originally on Netflix, but it has been removed. I'm not sure if they'll ever put it back up again, but it was on Netflix. At least you don't have to put up with ads, even though I don't like using Netflix that often. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
it's actually a really good documentary. Check it out if you ever can, mate. It's got some very
Yeah. Yeah.
moving cinematic music as well.
Yeah. Chew in the chat has actually asked, is it possible to put up a link in the notes
Yeah, sure.
somewhere?
I'll actually be doing that. Yes, absolutely. I'll be putting the link up in the description. Absolutely, for sure. Um, so that you can go and check out that documentary. I should have done that before the show started. Actually, my apologies, Stu.
That's
I
all
should go
good.
and check up the comments now. Actually, I'm just getting all the comments. Yeah, got the angel. Okay, got greetings, Chew. Greetings, Angel Wings. Love you, darling. Yeah, I got a few people coming in there. Yes, how are you? Great to see you here this evening. Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Hey, it's awesome. So now this Damien Hirst also is. I must also remind people. I want to take my hat off. It's actually getting quite warm in here. Um, Damien Hirst has been called out, I must say, also by the mainstream as such as being quite eccentric and also a bit of a poser and also someone who hasn't been quite honest with a lot of his artworks, and a lot of the people in the art industry as such are basically trying to call out his this exhibition as such as being faked because one of the particular pieces that were brought up from the bottom of the ocean has distinct features about its face that looks very similar to Damien, even though it's not Damien Hirst himself. Okay, now I will admit there have been other statues that have been placed around the different oceans around the world just to see how coral behave and how they work and actually grow on different objects underwater, depending on the actual structure of the object and actually the makeup of the object as well. Now, there was a goofy statue that was put underwater at some place around the world. I know that had coral had grown completely over the whole entire structure and statue. Mickey Mouse as well, and Pluto. So these are different experiments that have been conducted. So people are trying to, in the art industry, have been trying to compare some of these things that have been done around the world to some of these artworks that have been brought up from the bottom of the ocean, and trying to call Damien Hirst out as being someone who's faked the exhibition. And clearly, these people have, just critics, etc., that really got nothing better to do than pretty much bitch and whinge and whine, excusing my language, about something they really have no clue about, and haven't
Well,
even done the research, let alone looked at how some of this stuff was brought up. They're just quick to actually check everything out. Quick to call everything out. Here we go. We've got the little man jumping up behind us here, loving the energy as usually is. Here we go.
have you ever actually thought too, Chris, that the reason why they're trying to debunk this, not only are they trying to keep the price of their own fake rubbish high end art up, but also to if something like this truly came out, the narrative, and certainly the narrative that many of them spin, will be
Yeah,
blown out of the
it's
water.
just
So,
it does.
yeah, I've had dealings with a lot of these so-called fine art experts, and yeah,
Yes.
some of them would turn around and say a cup of tea was an ancient artifact, and yeah, oh, by the way, we want 1.5 million for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If people out there, yeah, um, without sort of saying too much, because I understand you're on YouTube and that sort of thing, but the
Oh, that's okay, mate. Go for it.
fine art industry as a whole is a front for moving large amounts of money for not a lot. Um, yeah, uh, yeah. Sort of what some of Carl's shows and where myself and Chris are on, and yeah, that'll come up in the future. I'll bring a lot more of that out. But the levels of it are unbelievable, and yeah,
Oh
without
yeah.
trying to get you thrown off YouTube or anything like that, it's yeah,
No, it's okay. No, it's
all
okay.
right.
No, that's okay. You feel free to operate and say whatever you feel like within the, whatever you like within the structure of how much you would like to say. Don't feel like you're pressured to say anything as such. If you know,
Yeah,
people.
it's sort of. I know you're working very hard to build the channel and that sort of thing. The last thing I want is you banned off your channel and that sort of thing. So
No problems,
yeah,
brother. I
at this
appreciate it.
stage, yeah, for this sort of deal, yeah, that's about all I will say. But yeah, given the opportunity and the right circumstances, probably on a Rumble sort of show where they're not likely, then yeah, then I'll bring it all out because a lot of the fine art and stuff that that people think it is has a extremely dark side to it, with 9 times out of 10. And yeah, it's not nice. Just yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Well, it's funny that you say that because about these so-called dark people and etc. that do these fine artworks etc. Just so it turns out that I've actually got it here somewhere. It turns out that the actual exhibition is owned and operated by oligarchs. Okay, and
Yeah.
that's just the word that they use online. That's just the word they use online. It's actually an exhibition that's run by oligarchs. I'm pretty sure I've got it right here. Yeah. Oh, where is it? Yeah, here we go. Uh, yeah, here we go. It's in a showroom for oligarchs comprised of 190 works exhumed from the ocean floor. So that's the actual words that they used online. A showroom for oligarchs. That
Mm,
says a lot right there.
yes, it
So we'll
does.
leave it at that until we do a Rumble show at some stage in the future. Because yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
word that there's quite a lot in itself.
yeah.
Quite a lot in itself. So,
It's, I mean, yeah, I can see there's some stuff coming up in the chat. Yeah,
yep.
yeah. All I'll say is this stuff can involve human trafficking, money laundering, um, drugs, all sorts, and its origins are very, very dark.
Yeah. Very, very
And
unfortunate. I've
I'll
heard.
leave it at that for YouTube.
No problem. No problem, brother. Yep, we'll go with that. Yeah, so I do apologise about that before. My little Bodie, my little baby boy, he jumped up actually on the laptop and he actually activated a couple of buttons and I had some screens come up that I shouldn't have had come up. I knew he would do it at some stage, so I had to pop him down. He's actually down here on the carpet behind me. Well, it's actually he's up on the seat behind me now. He's propped himself up. Yeah, he's nice and cool now. But he's part of the action. He always likes to get part of the action here. It's awesome. But yeah, mate, I will definitely leave that for another time.
Yeah,
Now, I
definitely.
was going to say, we've I'll just pull up some other info here too that we were talking about with this ship. Now, um, the ship's name it turns out to be the Epistos. Okay, now the Epistos was owned by a gentleman by the name of Arus Amatan. Now, it turns out that this Amatan was freed from slavery, and after he was freed from slavery, he traveled the world and he grew a fascination and an affinity for beautiful artworks and sculptures and just different creations from around the world that he just found absolutely mind blowing. And somehow or another, I mean, he was able to amass quite an amazing collection of different things. And his vision was to bring all these beautiful artifacts and things to one place where he could display them for everyone around the world, far and wide, to come and see. And unfortunately, on its way from wherever it was to picking up its last piece of artwork, on its way to wherever it was going, it was lost at sea. Either through there's two different stories apparently, according to the documentary. Which one you'd believe is up to you or not. But one either went down in a storm off the coast of East Africa, or it was taken down by a mythological sea monster. This is two different stories that have been floating around, so to speak. And I tend to more believe the storm story at this point in time, but you never know. I mean, I've shared with you a photo recently, Bob, of
Mm-hmm.
quite an extraordinary being underwater with a naval diver that I've got. And Yeah, we'll leave that for another show. Very
Most
interesting.
definitely. Yeah,
If any of you don't know what thing called Ningen, and that's spelled asNingen, it's an ancient Japanese word for giant human of the water. Go and have a look at what Ningen is, people, and yeah, you'll have a
yeah.
little bit
It'll
shocked.
say
It gives you a little bit of foresight information before the show.
the photos I was
But
shown
yeah,
are pretty spectacular.
yeah, to say the least, mate. To say the least. So yeah, what I'll do is I'm going to pull up some of these photos now. Now, I do believe I did have this file up earlier, but since we've started the live stream, for some reason, mate, it's popped out the actual file and it's just left up the add to stream. Now I'm going to pop this in. Okay, now we'll go over here to this. Unfortunately, it's dropped down the screens that I had ready for us. Okay, now, these are the photos that I have ready for us tonight. Unfortunately, they are being shown before they are ready. So I'm going to bring this over. Now, can you see that, guys, online properly?
Yeah, we can see that.
Can everyone see? All right, excellent. Now, looking at this is actually quite an amazing piece, to say the least. Look at that. Now, if you want, I'm going to zoom this up for you so you can see the facial features and the delicateness and the intricateness of the eyes, the dimple within the, underneath the nose, between the lip, which is where the facial skin joins in the mother's womb. The hair. I mean, looking at the hair, look at the lines in this. The eyes, the inset as well. The ears, the lines in the lips. I mean, this is defined bronze sculptures with gold leaf inlay that's been put onto it, and it's the perfect form of the female in every way, from shoulders, neck, facial, everything, the breast to the stomach, arms. It's perfect in every way. I mean, how was it done? That's a, that's my question. Is how is a perfect human facial intricacies of the facial features being able to be perfected in a bronze sculpture, and especially if
Well,
it's bronze cast? If they did that,
well,
who's to
well, I mean,
say?
certainly the question's got to be asked because back in around that time they would have had copper tools. Well, so the narrative says. Now, copper, most people don't know, is a very soft metal. So
That's right.
now, okay, even if that's bronze, a casting, especially of like the hair on the left hand side there, would be exceptionally difficult to achieve.
Yes, that's exactly
So,
right. Here, yes,
either which way.
the,
So, yeah, the techniques that have been used here are certainly something that even would challenge today. Um,
exactly.
yeah, that would be very, very complex. Having first-hand knowledge of metallurgy and casting, yeah, that would be quite a feat. And in fact,
Absolutely.
I'd almost start to put down that could be impossible for even today to cast it.
Yeah, that's exactly what my thinking is as well. So where, to me, where the I'll leave that question I was about to say
Yeah,
just then until the end. Actually, we'll say that
yeah,
question right towards the end,
yeah. Sorry about
because I
that.
mean, like, this really is actually just, I mean, so beyond the scope and reckoning of what we're capable of today in every way. That, I mean, like, looking at here, look, this is the collarbone that comes directly out from the shoulder here to the center of the chest. I mean, this is absolutely representatory of the actual biological form in every way. I mean, even right down to the divot within the neck where the slight throat area is in the not atoms, I'm sorry, the voice box. I mean, everything's representatory all the way down to the roundness of the shoulder. Yeah, just everything, even the ribs, the stomach, the breastal plate, Okay, everything is just so perfect. It baffles me as to how they were able to do this. It really does. Now, this statue here, this is a statue of the demigod from Babylon called Pazuzu. Now, the statue itself isn't this big. This is a 3D print that was put together to represent the whole collection as a centerpiece where this was actually put. And as you can see up here, we've got a gentleman up here on the balcony looking up at the height of this thing from behind. So you can see even up here as well on the left, there's another person up here. But this is quite a large statue. It's up to, I think it's up to 20 feet tall, something like that. 18 feet tall, this statue. But originally the statue was only, I think, 3.5 feet tall. Okay, now the demigod Pazuzu was from Babylon, apparently. Okay, now the head of this statue was separated and was actually, to tell you the truth, found in the desert on a dig site in the 1930s. Now the head of this statue had somehow been separated from the overall body, and the body was found on the bottom of the ocean floor. But when they put the two together, perfect match. Okay, now the head is actually on display inside the museum alongside the original statue that was found. But I haven't got any other photos of this one particularly, but when you look at the actual hand of this thing here, you can see that it has large nails that are actually quite demonic-like. Okay, and you can see here, I think that's actually part of coral there, but I think his thumb is pretty much holding the bowl. But this is what they call a what bowl was it called? I can't remember the name of the bowl. It was actually mentioned in the documentary, but this thing had beast-like feet and hands with a raised backbone or spinal column. In other words, they had plates or bone-like plates down the backbone hanging out of the skin of this thing, and the feet on this thing were very much beast-like, and so were the hands. Now, as much as it is human form in every way, you can see this is obviously a hybridized human of some form from back then. That was from Babylon, that was actually running along the earth, running alongside humans at one stage or another. Hence the reason why they depict these things in either stone or bronze. Artists don't make things in stone or make them as such out of marble or paint things unless they have seen them and are inspired. So to look at this thing and ask, what sort of people were really around on the earth these thousands of years ago, and how long ago was this small statue that's only 3 foot tall? How long ago was this actually made, and when was this actual individual being walking on Earth? I mean, we know that Babylon was quite a long time ago. So Babylon itself, you've got to ask, what were they doing back then? What were they invoking? What were they invoking? Demonic spirits? Were they hybridizing? Genetic experimentation? And there's a lot of things that are a lot of questions that are unleft, unfortunately.
Well, so you can see even now, I mean, there's evidence coming out, and it's driving the mainstream media crazy, that they actually reckon the flood wasn't actually that long ago. It may have only been 300 or 400 years ago. Now, in saying that, that also adds the possibility, has someone put 1,000 years of so-called history into our timeline?
Yeah.
And also add to that when the flooding event happened, the sea level rose approximately 400 feet. Now, if you just take a minute or two to think about that, there's a lot of ancient cities that are around the coast of India, Africa, around the Americas, even here into the Pacific. 400 feet. Yes. Is a huge amount of water to be, but more and more of these things are being discovered.
Yes.
But mainstream media are doing their utmost to keep it all very, very quiet. So
they're trying to
definitely start doing your research, but don't use Google. Start looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use DuckDuckGo, people.
Yep, you got it. Yeah, but sort of the non-mainstream search engines start having a look, start having a bit of a dig. You'll be very, very surprised what is out there. But most of all,
Absolutely.
folks, please use your own discernment because things like this
Discernment.
are more and more out there.
Absolutely. And here's one of my banners, people, for everyone to look at right now. Right now, unlearn and discern. That is key on this show. Using your discernment and looking at things from multiple angles and checking the sources of this information from multiple sources before you make your final decision on different things. And one thing I'd like to also ask people, if you can in the audience, in the future when we do sorts of things like history shows and stuff like that, where we show things like this, have a little piece of paper or a pen or a small pad with you and a pen with you, so you can write some of these names down that we mentioned, because we've looked at some of these things over, or all of these things over a long period of time, and I mean, I've had a good amount of time on my own to actually check this stuff out, and I found it fascinating to say the least. And you too, I'm sure. Once you look at this stuff, you will absolutely just go, "Wow!" There's so many different rabbit holes that'll take us down in history, especially. That will fill in the gaps. That will really the pieces that used to make you scratch your head, you'll no longer be scratching your head to. Let's just say that.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
most definitely. I mean, when you start thinking of, especially the hybridization of human, of human and that sort of thing, where you start thinking of old mythology, and suddenly you actually start to find that this wasn't actually myth; it's fact.
It's fact.
And you start to
Fact.
then learn possibly why the flood was invoked in order to clear these away. Yeah,
Yes.
that's when you start really asking some questions. And also, the other big question too is petrification. Stuff turning to stone.
Vitrification. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. There's some really good stuff coming out. Michael Tillinger, especially, has been doing some
Yes.
fantastic work on this. And yeah,
Write that name
yeah,
down, people. Michael Tellinger, the Ubuntu Project.
yes, most definitely. Go and have a look at his stuff. And yeah, you may very well start to rethink your history in a big way. That what we are being
It's
told
truly
is
not
nothing but BS.
exactly. Exactly. I found that history that I was being taught in school okay at the time, but I always questioned the narrative back then. I look at it back in my mind now, thinking to myself, even back then, questioning the narrative, they called it disturbing the class.
That's
Asking the
right.
questions of why is it, Miss, that you told us that Egypt rose at at the power and height of its civilization, back then, but over here, and that was 3,000 years ago, and you said nothing else was before that, but here we are this semester, and you're telling us that this civilization existed before then. Well, hold on, you've just contradicted yourself from last semester, Miss. What's the go here?
Mhm.
Get out of my class, Mr. Sinclair. You're disturbing. I'm just asking a question, Miss. Go up the office. I'll let them know you're coming. First thing I get there is why you're disturbing the class, Mr. Sinclair. Next thing you know, I'm getting six of the best.
Yep, I
I was
can.
questioning the narrative. I was questioning the narrative even back then.
I mean, I'm sure I had my name written on a chair outside my principal's office, and I mean, yeah, he pounded my backside many times, with the
Oh
old
yeah,
cane back
man.
in the day, because again, like I asked the question. They tried to beat me
That's
into
right, mate.
submission, and hey, that didn't work either.
Never. Oh, I just realised I left my banner up. That I just because I just went to full screen just then. It's banner down. There we go. Go back into full screen. Yeah, mate. There was definitely a chair for me outside the office for sure with my name on it. Now have a look at this, people. This is a picture of the actual divers underwater. This is a 18-foot or so 14-foot statue, 15-foot statue of a seven-headed hydra. It might be more actually. I think it's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Seven-headed hydra snake. Now these are called nagas in ancient Indian stories from the Mahabharata and the Vedics. Okay, and these stories come from an ancient time in Dwarka, India, that was also swallowed by the ocean, 400 feet under the water now. Okay, much like many other places along the coastlines around the world. Now, looking at this statue here, you have a statue of Shiva with his 6 arms, and he has 6 swords drawn against a 7-headed hydra. Now, I have another photo of this down the track that I'll show you is on side on, so you can see the scope and scale of this thing. But looking at the divers, even them, they're looking at this thing going, "Oh my god!" This is in 40 feet of 50 feet of water, and still visible. But I mean, looking at the size of this compared to them, you can see this is quite large, isn't it? And how the hell did they make it like this? Got me. I'll say it now. It's got me knackered because that's a one-piece cast. When you see this from side on, it's the base, the snake, and Shiva, all there as one-piece cast. And it's unbelievable. But if you look at this as well here, where I've got my cursor at the moment, when this is displayed in the museum as a whole, as it is here, these look like crystals coming up out of the back of it. So you'll get to see this later on. But yeah, very, very beautiful statue that's bronze. Made of bronze again. Another bronze casting. How was it made? Here it is here. See the crystals? These were the points that were pointing up out of the back of them from the ocean there, the stand. But looking at this, look at this. This is amazing in every way. How was this done? Have you got anything you can say about this, Bob? Because this is...
Yeah. I'm actually, sort of had my breath taken away, really. I mean, this is certainly next level stuff, without question.
Kind of really makes you question your ancient history class and what you were taught, that's for sure. Because this goes against the narrative that we were taught, or not even that. I mean, it wasn't even taught this stuff. This was avoided. But when you look at this, you look at your history and you think, okay, this is not the history that we've been taught. What civilization, what culture, and how far back did this go? Who lived here back then? Because this isn't this isn't our civilization. This isn't from our culture. Because if it was, this stuff would still exist on the planet today.
Yeah.
What inspired the artist to create such a thing? Did they see such a creature that roamed the earth back then that had 7 heads? I mean, did Shiva roam the earth? I mean, Shiva's a very interesting character if you go and read the Vedics and the Mahabharata from India.
Mm-hmm.
Where his origins come from is another thing, people. I mean, I've found the information to be very credible. I mean, the Vedics themselves have not changed. The texts of the Vedics are one text in the world that have not changed once in 45,000 years. 45,000 years the actual Indian Vedics have been around. And they talk about a time in civilization when they have things called the Vimana in the sky. Now, Vimanas are ancient flying machines that were depicted in the sky as having a battle in the skies over India with another ancient race. And if you look at the frescoes that are in India depicting this battle, you'll see that one group is clearly human and very much Indian in origin, very much like Shiva, because Shiva had very much dark skin and Indian in origin as well, in culture. But you look at the other beings that they're fighting, and they're all green-skinned. Green. And they do not look human. So therefore, this is a time in civilization that is not ours. Okay, this is a culture and civilization that's, from what I've been told, we're the number 6 civilization that's been here since this time.
Yes.
So how many other cultures and civilizations and who were they? That kind of leads into a lot of other stories like we were talking about privately, Bob, about what do they call it? What's that civilization that we were talking about, mate? I can't remember that. It's on the tip of my tongue. With no toilets, etc.
Sorry, you just broke up.
Ones with the civilization that was before us with no toilets.
Oh, the Tartarian.
Sorry, thank you. Gosh, I can't believe I forgot that name. Tip of my tongue.
I,
Tartarian civilization. Yes.
I mean, even how you were saying, yeah, we're the sixth um, sort of species or master species to be on the earth. Go and have a listen to
Yeah.
some of the Hopi Indian
Hopi
prophecy,
Indian stories.
and then they
Yep.
talk
Hopi.
exactly about this. And
Yep.
yeah, interesting stuff, folks.
Actually, I couldn't agree more with Bob there because a gentleman by the name of Clifford Mahuti may unfortunately had passed away last year during COVID. May he rest in peace. But Clifford Mahuti was one of the elders of the Hopi, and he had a lot of messages from the Star Nations that he and other Indian nations as well as shared with different cultures around the earth. All their stories co-interlocked together. They everything from the Australian original Indigenous people here, okay, to the Hopi of Americas, the Sioux Nation, okay, the Zuni, okay. It all matches. It doesn't matter where you go around the planet. Their stories all interlock. And it's a different story than what we've been told. It's far greater and far grander. So yeah,
Oh,
please,
yes.
people, I couldn't stress it enough. Take some notes down, grab some of these names, have a look at some of this stuff because it makes the shows so much more interesting, especially with you people that are joining us in the chat. Hearing back from you after a week, and seeing what you're coming up with in the chat and saying, "Oh, I learned about this week and such." I'll be like, "Wow, you're just seeing this stuff. This is great because it makes for a better interaction for all of us between the live chat, between what we're presenting here. It gives me better inspiration and more ideas for bringing you better content as well. Even guests as well. I've got some amazing guests lined up for you, that's for sure, in the
Oh,
next
yeah.
couple of weeks. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. You go around and have a look at these different things that we're talking about, like Michael Tellinger from the Ubuntu Project, Dr. Michael Sala, Elena Denan, doesn't matter. Um, Dan Winter, Dan Willis,
Mhm.
Chris Ession, Chris O'Connor, all these different beautiful people. Dr. Robert Schock is another one that I'd highly recommend as well. Dr. Osmanagic, okay, the guy who talks about the Romanian Carpathian Sphinx and the Bachigi Mountain Complex that we were talking about. All these different people. I've looked at these things for many years. Just take these names down, go and have a look at them, and trust me, your minds will just go.
Yeah, I mean, have a look at Anatoly Fomenko if anyone really wants
Oh,
to have a look about
yeah, that's great, isn't it?
the difference in time. I mean, I'm lucky enough where I have his three main books, and I'll tell you what, it's a bit of a hard read to get your head around, but by God, when you really start whittling it down, there are so many questions that he puts in there and blows our timeline as we know it way out the window. And I mean,
Yes,
from
certainly
planet
does.
placement to you name it. It's not just one way we've been lied to. It's many, and yeah,
Many.
some of what he brings
Layered.
in,
It's so layered.
yeah, yeah. So some of what he brings in, oh my God, and yeah.
Yeah,
But I say the
blew
books
my
are
mind.
very hard to get a hold of.
Yeah,
But if you can,
it
there,
is. I had to
um,
read it online. I couldn't get hold of the book. I had to read it online.
yeah, it's the three books you're after is the history, fiction, or science. There's volumes one, two, and three. They're quite big. But if
Absolutely.
you're up for a challenge, have a read.
Absolutely. It's very good read. I'll give it that. Another book that you might want to look up as well. Take this one down, people. The Urantia book. Another one's called the Urantia. That's spelled as Urantia. Urantia book. Very interesting read as well. You'll find that will actually co-correlate with that information that Bob was just talking about just then. And that's from two different authors from two opposite sides of the world with their own perspectives who know nothing of each other in two different time periods. who write about the same thing, and they're spot on. It just goes to show you how much we all connect to the ether, where time and where information flows freely, and time is non-existent. Okay, because everything is there, past, present, future, all at once. Everyone can draw from this, such as Tesla and Marconi. Okay, because Tesla and Marconi both came up with the patent for the radio, the wireless radio from opposite ends of the planet at the same time, and were patent filed with only a few days of each other. And Marconi actually accused Nikola Tesla of stealing his patent because it was almost a direct match when you compared the diagrams side by side. But what they were doing was deep in thought. This is called meditation. Okay, meditation is a thought process which is where you dive deep within yourself and actually are inspired. And sometimes you can go in such a deep meditation where you can actually draw from this information that is from past, present, and future, where it all coexists at once. And it just so happened to be that Marconi and Tesla were doing the same thing roughly at the same time. Two inventors from two opposite sides of the planet in the same time period who came up with the same invention, and one of them accused the other of actually stealing it when it was clearly impossible, because the time period, from what we've been told as well, steamboat travel from one side of the planet across the pond to the other was the only thing that was really available back then. So if that was the case, it would actually be impossible for Tesla to be able to steal Marconi's patent and get back to the US and file it before Marconi did. So you can see how they're both drawn from this information at the same time. Fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff.
It is another good one, folks, if you want to do a bit of digging, is Tales of a Shaman by Credo Mutwa. Now, Credo Mutwa, sadly, he has passed on. Now, if you've ever followed David Icke or Michael Tellinger, they both have interacted quite a few times with Credo Mutwa. And his book, amazing stuff. And it will definitely get you thinking.
I was going to ask Bob. Credo Mutwa was he connected to the Zulu tribes of Africa as well? Is that something that he was connected with?
Yeah, Credo Mutwa was like one of the guardians, but one of the chief shamans. So he literally had all the ancient knowledge, and the way the shamans work is that ancient knowledge can only ever be passed by word of mouth down. And so he would actually have trained someone in this generation to hold that knowledge.
Yes.
And
curious.
What's in that knowledge? Yeah, there are some interviews online with him. I think David Icke did one. I think it's about 3 or 4 hours long. Go and have a look. I mean, his book has a lot more than the interview, but the interview will give you quite a good head start.
Absolutely. Now, be prepared when you go and have a look at this information too. People need you to have a look at the fact that you need to have an open mind about this information, because it is a history that you haven't been taught. And fortunately for myself and Bob, we've actually had a lot of time to swallow this information and process it and compare it, to a lot of different sources. And I've got to say it, people, I'm sorry, but it is true. We have been taught a lie, and the lies are so compartmentalized and layered that the bullshit's really getting thick now. And it's up to people like myself and so many other people that are out there online right now and exposing this information, because this is the history of our past. And to know where you're going in your future, you need to know your past. And these are our true connections. I mean, you look at this individual here in this sculpture that we have right here. For example, this is from our past. Now, this head is an elongated head. Now we've found many skulls, for starters, around the planet, called the Paracas skulls, for one in Peru. That's one of many that have been found from different places. One also, we found skulls like these in Malta, exactly the same. Now, these people were here clearly on the Earth at one stage in our past. Now, people will say this is cranial deformation, in some cultures, in order to emulate who they called their gods. Okay, so what they do is cranial binding. Okay, it's traditions from certain cultures around the planet, especially in Africa, where they will actually cranial bind the backs of the heads, okay, in order to emulate who their gods were that apparently came from the sky. Okay, so they would actually do this to their infants, and as the infants grew, they would loosen and then retighten the strapping that was around their head in order to elongate the sutures to join the cranial bones to be more elongated to emulate the look of the gods. But these individuals that they were trying to imitate, okay, did live and work here on the planet. Now, you might say that these were just deformed humans to a degree. Well, no, okay, they're not. Now, looking at the information that I know from these individuals, these skulls, and looking at the DNA, okay, I'm going to let you know some information now in the audience. These individuals do not share the same cranial suture bones that normal human beings hold on their head. Okay, so when a child is born, they have 3 bones, 2 at the back and one I think it's 1 at the front. Is that correct, or is it 2 at the front and 2 at the back?
No. You're spot on. And then you've got the oh my god, I forget the medical name for it, but there's literally a hole that sits at the top of the head.
Yes.
Once right. you get into adulthood, it will, because it remains soft as a child. So
that's
when
right.
you pass through the birthing canal, the skull bones can move, so you're not going to tear your mother apart.
Yes.
And then once you're out, it will fuse over.
Fuse over a period of 5 to 7 years, exactly. Yes. Now these individuals don't have those bones, okay, and their heads we've found also through some of the individuals' bodies. We've found infants laying alongside some of these bodies that have been found with these skulls, and their skulls as infants are the same, like they've come out of their mother with the elongation at birth without cranial suture skull cranium bones. So these are a different form of human species to a degree, but on a genetic level, we've also seen that the DNA side by side with human beings, comparatively, we share a 98.95% comparison with these individuals. So that means that we, on a genetic level, come from them. These are our genetic brothers and sisters. Now, you also go to different cultures around the planet. You go to Egypt, you look at Nefertiti, okay? At a time of what's his name? Tutankhamun and his sister Nefertiti all had elongated skulls that were natural. They did not have cranial suture skull, cranium bones. Okay, so these were individuals that were like us, but also different from us. And this is obviously, I mean, we'll show you this a close up. Okay, now unfortunately, I do apologise for the A and the alamy on there. I couldn't find a good photo of this without the crap on it. But I want you to pay a little bit of attention here to the eyes. Now, these are made out of a beautiful emerald inlay, okay, to represent the beautiful eyes of this female. This is clearly a female, a beautiful woman, okay. You can see the eyebrows. You can see the ears are absolutely perfect in form, even the divots and valleys and rises. The lines within the lips, scale that up more. Look at this. It's just fascinating to see how they were able to imitate life perfectly in a perfect piece of one piece marble with no tool marks whatsoever, considering they said that things were made with copper tools and hammers. How is it that this is perfectly made like David, the creation of Michelangelo's David, that sits in, is it Greece?
Yes.
Or Italy, sorry, Italy.
Greece.
Yeah, that's the thing. You look at, in Greece, yeah. You look at that statue as well, and all the other statues that are made of marble. These things are made in such a way that there are no tool marks. So it suggests, what culture built this and what sort of technology to create and emulate and imitate life in art form like this so perfectly. So again, you got the collarbones coming from the shoulders. the neck, the trapezius, the voice box. Actually, that's another thing you were talking about too the other day, Bob, about how we could tell the difference as well between male and female when we're talking privately. Would you like to add that at all, mate? When it
Yeah,
comes to
yeah,
this?
certainly can. With all the transgenderism and that sort of thing around at the moment, um, you can actually look at the proportions between a male and a female, even though they might have wigs and everything else, but you can actually see a direct difference. Now, a female, right? If you consider the the width of someone, so from shoulder tip to shoulder tip, and look at the head, with a female, you should be able to get three head sizes across the from shoulder to shoulder. With a male, because again we're built differently, the head is actually slightly larger, so you actually only get about 2 to 2.5 head
That's
head
correct.
width across your shoulders.
That's
Now
right.
the other big one is the ring finger. Um, with a male, the ring finger is always shorter than the main finger by quite a bit. With a female, some of them
Exactly.
can come right up and be almost equal. And that is another
Yep.
very quick way that you can actually tell whether someone is male or female straight off the bat,
Biologically, yes. Biologically
biologically.
speaking, absolutely.
Yeah, without
Yep.
going and looking for Adam's apples that could be shaved or anything
Yeah.
like that. These sort of
Yeah.
things cannot be changed. So, when you
No.
start looking at the likes of Jack Cinder from New Zealand or, Michael Obama, you can see it in them because they use very key camera angles in order to narrow
Yeah. Yeah.
the spacing. So it looks more feminine, but they are actually male. And so, yeah, just
Yeah.
keep that one, folks. And as said, for a fellow that lives in the shadows, these are the sorts of things that I look for to sift out the
Yep.
bullshit.
We notice. We notice
Yeah,
the little things. That's what matter. Yes. The little things always matter, and that's how they get away with it. It's the little things. And it only takes a few of us to notice the little things and
yeah.
expose them that make a difference.
Hidden in plain sight is used so much, and most people, because they swallow so much of this stuff, they don't take that step back and look. And
No.
yeah, people can almost get away with murder, by different masks and all sorts, and people go, well, that's that person. But with a mask, you can always tell because how it sits on the head, there's always
Yeah.
like ripples and that sort of thing, which shouldn't be there. So
That's right.
that's just one way. And masks are not a new thing. These have been around for
No.
decades.
They're actually hundreds of
Yeah,
years. They've been used in so many ways to silence humanity
yeah,
symbolically over periods of time since the Dark Ages, even right back as far as probably ancient Egypt or even Sumeria. We could even probably say then as well at some stage
yes,
when there was infiltration.
yeah. I mean,
Look at that.
anyone that starts to do any history on the Khazarian mafia and what they did and how they in the early years how they would assume people's identities. Think of that,
Identities, yes,
because
exactly.
they did some pretty horrific stuff back then, and that's just one example. And I'll leave that with you.
Yep. This beautiful piece here. I mean, we can see clearly. I mean, this is a beautiful Nubian woman's face that's been 3D, like it's three dimensional. It comes out from the disc, and we've got the flower of life etched
Yep,
into this as well, which clearly means these people had an understanding of cymatics, sound, vibration, and frequency.
yep. The lotus. Yep.
The lotus flower, exactly, the flower of life. So these people are highly advanced individuals to know such things and have metallurgy knowledge to be able to create a three-dimensional human-sized face inside the metal without actually hurting a human. How is this possible?
Mm.
Beautiful question to ask. This is it at the bottom of the ocean floor when it was being found.
Well, that's some serious size there.
That's what I mean. It sat there like that for God knows how long. Probably covered at one stage, uncovered, covered again, with different storms over the hundreds of years that it was there, but still resting nonetheless on the ocean floor, looking up, waiting for someone to pick them up and bring them to sunlight again, bring them to the surface. Waiting. Amazing. Now, if you look at this as well closely, you can see that this has eyelashes, eyebrows. It's phenomenally made, this thing. I'm fascinated by these things. Another elongated skull made out of solid gold. But looking at this, around the ear, curious. Doesn't this look representatory of what we see today as Bluetooth technology earpieces?
Yeah, also representing
Possibly into a
the
helmet.
cochlear as a human ear is now, because you actually have that
Yes,
the swirl.
exactly. And this is also another female feature, another womanly form. Beautiful features. They're made of solid gold with the full elongated head. Oh, there it is again. Oh, now that's a close up of it with sunlight. Oh, sorry, with a light gun on it. Now, this was also brought up from the ocean floor. I want you to look carefully in the audience at this. What does this represent or look very similar to that we've seen in quite a few movies in the last 15 years or last 12 years? Give us a hint. This is it from side on as well. Now, looking at this, I want you to have a look closely. This is a dragon's head. You haven't seen here. It's spinal column. It has a tail. It has legs with horns on it. Is this something very similar to what we know to be like this?
I
Or
reckon
like
so.
Megatron? So is Hollywood, I ask, showing us that Transformers, to somewhat degree, in artificial intelligence, if there's a bad artificial intelligence, such as what we call the black goo, etc., and other different sorts of technologies that have been used against human beings and artificial intelligence, has artificial intelligence at somewhat degree out there in the universe become so sentient that they actually have a form now where they can actually choose, like us, free will, which is the form of free will given to us by all choice of creator. They are now able to choose free will to be either good or bad, represent and protect humankind, or kill and destroy. Hence the reason why we have Autobots and Decepticons. Are these... Oops, I'll go back over here. Where is it? Where did it disappear to? Oh, my pictures of... What's the name? Sorry, there it is. Are these things real? I mean, we've got two pieces here. This is the the lower jaw here on either side, and the upper jaw. You can see, obviously, there is teeth here on either side. A roof of the mouth that is got bones, obviously, or representatory of bones. Here, we'll look at the head. Look at the head. That's very reminiscent of the new Megatron that came out in the new Transformers last night. That came out recently. Now, look at all this around here. Looks like teeth. This makes you wonder, are things like Transformers real? This looks like a Dinobot to me. So, yeah, it makes you think, guys. And this is made out of solid gold too, made in a time that we have no idea of, And people don't make things in stone or sculpt them out of marble or cast them in gold or make them in gold or whatever unless they've been inspired by something they have seen so that they can make them in those mediums so that they last. Gold is one of the biggest things that will last and not tarnish on the bottom of the ocean floor, let alone coral, grow on it. It won't allow anything to grow on it, really. So, now having a look at this, this is absolutely beautiful. Picture of Isis. Absolutely amazing. The intricacy of the hair, the wings, the body, the stomach is absolutely representatory of the human female form in every biological beautiful way. I mean, how are we able to create such things of this wonder with today's technology? We cannot. I have not been able to see a way that through all my research. Have you, Bob?
Definitely not. That is some serious artwork there. And bear in mind, too, folks, that the turquoise in the wings and on top of the headrest there, that is reserved exclusively for royalty.
Yeah.
So you're getting a hold of that stuff. Extremely rare. But back in those times anyway. But yeah, you've got to ask the question more and more.
We have to always ask questions. Question the narrative, everyone. Always. But it's just amazing to see the beauty and how they uplifted the feminine form in such beautiful ways back then that no one was ashamed of this. And today it's so many prudes that look at things like this and this sort of artwork and go, oh, whoa, come on. But I look at this stuff and go, wow, this is what we need to bring back again, the inspiration of these beautiful things and create new things like this once more.
Absolutely.
If only we had the technology. There it is on display in the Action Museum, or the oligarchs display, I should say. Got to give him hell. A solid marble piece with gold inlay. Serpent over the forehead, over the pineal gland. Bob, would you like to tell the audience if they've been misinformed through the past of information being released, so to speak, of different things? Would you like to elaborate and please inform the audience of the knowledge of the serpent, please, and what representatory is?
Okay, the serpent itself has actually been usurped very, very badly by the church and by the Romans. If you go right back to even long before the Bible, the snake itself is actually representative of esoteric knowledge or hidden knowledge, and hence why it is sitting on your third eye for anything like pharaohs and that sort of thing, because that's where you get esoteric knowledge from. So not only are the ancients telling you where this information comes from, but they're also trying to show you. Now, Chris and I have had some long discussions over this, and more and more the research that I'm doing, and both of us have been doing, where the snake has been in Eden, talking with Adam and Eve. Now, essentially what's happened is the snake has come into the garden, spoken with Eve, actually telling them who they are, and hence why they were cast out of the Garden of Eden. Now, this story itself goes back to Enki and Enlil, where Enlil, he wanted them kept within the Garden of Eden. Now, take the Garden of Eden and think of an isolated genetic lab, let's put it that way. So nothing can get into it. And when you start thinking along those lines, and now Enki has come in and told them, look, you are part of us. We're not gods, and you are made in our image. Suddenly,
That's right.
you've now got a huge problem, and hence why Enlil has cast them out of the
Enlil.
so-called Garden of Eden, because they can no
Yes.
longer be controlled because you're now one of them. So
Yep.
it does definitely raise some questions in history.
It does. I was actually going to further elaborate a little bit as well on what Bob was
Yeah,
just saying.
go for it, mate.
In one of the, now I'd like you to take this down as well, please, in the audience, if you have a piece of paper and a pen. Some of the latest updates from Dr. Michael Suller from exopolitics.org. Okay. Now, Dr. Suller works with a beautiful group of individuals by the name of Alex Collier, okay, and Elena Danan. Okay, these names I would like you to take down as well. Now, Dr. Suller has been releasing information recently, and I've got no fear of saying this information because he releases it on YouTube, so I think it's only appropriate that I can follow up and back his information up, because I've done this research myself and found to these conclusions myself many years before actually finding Dr. Suller, and hearing now what he's actually releasing is actually quite refreshing for myself, because it makes me understand and see within myself now that all those years researching were not wasted, and that this so-called tinfoil hat that I've been called all these years is actually now a crown of knowledge. But it turns out that Dr. Suller has released information recently in regards to the old city of Nippur outside of Iraq, which is, turns out this is where Enki was doing portions of his genetic experiment. Now, this you've got the cities of Nippur, Ur, okay, and Eridu in these local areas. Now, I'll say to people now, one of the earliest things that I had in my earlier part of my awakening, roughly 12 years ago, when I first started actually awakening to some of this information, was the words Eridu flashing in my head. Literally, the words Eridu, which is apparently one of the first cities of Sumeria. Okay, now I've actually gone out of my way, because I wasn't actually very tech savvy. All of what I do now, even this stuff with StreamYard and everything that I'm doing online, I was not tech savvy. I did not know about computers. I hated them. If I touched them, it felt like they were biting me. Okay, I hated them with a passion. But I asked my mate that I was visiting one day, "Can you just type into your Google, mate?" So I said to him, "Your Google." So type in for me the word Eridu and just see what you get. It turns out there was over 164,000 hits on this one name, or this one word alone, and it turned out that this name represented one of the first three cities that were originally in ancient Iraq, which is known as Sumeria, Sumer. So you have Eridu, Nippur, and Ur. Now, Ur, if everyone doesn't know, is actually where one of the stargates were found, and it was in Iraq, in the great ancient ziggurat of Ur, where Saddam Hussein found Stargate. And that Stargate was taken during the Gulf War and taken back to none other than Cheyenne Mountain Complex, everyone, which is where the Stargate SG-1 TV show was depicted. Nippur is the area in which Enki was doing his genetic experiments. And it's been actually released by Dr. Suller and Elena Danan that this is one of the main cities that Enki used to inhabit quite a lot. So it's safe to say that if you were to refer back to the original writings of where the Bible first came from, which is the cuneiform texts of the ancient Sumer, where the Bible was derived from, you'll see that when you listen to how it's written in its original cuneiform text, you'll quickly pick up, and it has been actually carried over to the Bible, funnily enough, and it's actually what they say, truth in plain sight. It's just up to the individual, the reader, to read between the metaphor as such and see the truth within that. Now, I'm going to give people a little bit of a heads up here right now. Might ruffle a few people's feathers in relation to religion, but at the end of the day, we're here about truth. We're not here about sugarcoating anything for anyone. Basically, it's up to you to go and have a look at this stuff. You can, deny it if you like, and by all means, we're not going to knock you. That's okay. That's your bag. It's cool, and we respect you and love you for that. Okay, but truth is truth. When you look at the stories of Genesis, even though there have been previous books that were removed, such as the books of Enoch, which are 39 chapters that were removed by Emperor Constantine in Constantinople. Okay, you look at the story of Genesis as such, and we've got one particular saying there in Genesis that really gives it away. And it's spoken in plural form, everyone. And I want you to think about this, everyone, for a second. Let us make man and woman in our image. Now, in saying that, if you are all-powerful creator, would you agree with this, Bob, with what I'm about to say? If you're an all-powerful creator and have created everything in heaven and earth, multidimensionally, etc., you wouldn't need to speak in plural form to other people, saying hence us and our. You would say, let I, or I shall make man and woman in my image.
Yes.
Quite so right. Therefore, who is speaking here in so-called Genesis, which originally is written from Sumer or ancient Sumeria cuneiform texts? Is this Enki speaking in plural form to others that are in the room, master geneticists, saying, let us, speaking to all of them in the room, let us make man and woman in our image? Would that be correct in assuming that from my personal research that I've done?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you actually want to take things one step further, for those who really wonder about the Bible, go and have a look at the Church of Isaiah. Now, the Church of Isaiah comes out of mainly Ireland, but this encompasses the Druids and so-called witches and that sort of thing of that age. It's very pagan in its teachings, very benevolent. You're working with Mother Earth, you're working with the sun, everything else. This is where, when you start reading the Bible, the Bible is layered. So you've actually got astrotheology, which sits in behind so many things. And this is where it comes from, folks. And now you've then had the church come in, hack, chop, add bits and everything else. So now you've got, which was originally a very benevolent teaching. Now you've got areas in there which tell you how to rape, how to pillage, how to murder. They're okay. And, Deuteronomy is one area. Go and have a good read of it, folks. There's things in that section that you'll never, ever be taught about in Sunday school. And it is literally how to murder and how to rape.
Exactly.
And if you understand where the origins have come from, that would never, ever have been put in there.
That's right.
Just saying, folks.
That's right.
So, please do your research.
Please have a look at the research.
Billy Carson put out a very good very good video on exactly this. And he details it very clearly. And, very
clearly.
I
couldn't recommend Billy Carson any higher, actually, right now in relation to that subject at the moment. I'll agree with Bob there. Billy Carson does definitely give a very good presentation on this subject, and you'll be surprised as to how much it's been coerced, this information, from so many, all of this put together by so many different parts of the elites, etc., and the bloodlines over time. It's just crazy, and the levels of compartmentalization and layering and lies is just so intricately interwoven that the bullshit's getting thick. It really is. So that's why we have to say it truthfully, wholeheartedly, and openly as we do. And really, and I'm personally going to say this: I actually don't care about other people's opinions when it comes to this, because unless you've actually done the research yourself, you're in no position to sit there and criticize.
Very much so. Yeah, just also looking back in the chat there, Chu, you've asked,
Yep.
does the Maori culture have a serpent god or gods? Not necessarily
Aha. We've
as a
talked about
god.
this.
Yeah, not necessarily as a god, but they do have what they call the taniwha. Now, the taniwha is a mythical monster that lives within normally lakes and rivers, and again was reported to be serpent-like. Um, but then, if you, although nothing ever found as such, but when you start to look just across the water here in Australia, you had the woggle, very similar sort of representation in the mythology. So
Yep.
yes, there may very well have been something along those lines.
Yeah. Yeah. We've even spoken about the tiki as well in
Yes.
relation to this. Would you like to go on actually elaborate a little bit about that before we talk about this photo, or would you like to just
Um,
continue with the photos?
I'm just trying to look. We've got an hour and a half already. I think we'd better
Yeah.
press on with the photos, but we can certainly come back to some of that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
I reckon we'll come back
Down
to
the
the
line.
tiki on another show if you like. Yeah, because I'll do it because I remember I showed you that photo from Peru that I
Yeah,
sent you. Yeah, if you like, we can do a whole show on that.
yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, that's actually going to be an eye opener because yeah, I mean I've only shown that as a small 2 minute video in my previous videos that I put together, and I mean comparing them to what you would call the Skeksis of the dark crystal. Yeah,
Yeah.
people, truth in plain sight. Now, this is the bronze sculpture that I was talking about that the mainstream art critics, so to speak, of the world were calling out Damien Hirst to possibly be representatory of himself, the actual artist. Now, I will admit it does look a lot like Damien Hirst, but it is not. And for this amount of coral to be grown on something like this, had to be on the
Mm,
bottom of the ocean floor for a very long time.
most definitely.
And that is not achieved in a short amount of time. And you cannot make coral grow extensively or hyper accelerate coral growth.
Hmm.
This is done, something that's done for over a very long period of time, and you
Yeah,
can see
that's hundreds of
the
years
human
right there.
features. Yeah, hundreds of years, absolutely. Calcification on this is absolutely immense. But look at the features in this; it's absolutely amazing. Just to know that this was made out of bronze, and it's a sculpt, and not a sculpt; it's a cast. How is it cast? Beautiful. Now that's the one made of marble earlier with the gold inlay. That's just a 3D print of what it looked like without the coral. Solid gold Nubian head. Beautiful in every way. Not a very good photo. I'd like to get a better photo of it, of course. I do apologise for this, everyone. But as you can see, just beautiful artworks in every way. This is the gold monkey that was brought up in the nets by the fishermen originally, which sparked the original story to be filmed and thrown up on the internet. So as you can see, you can probably imagine the amazement. This wasn't the monkey with the corn cob, sorry. There's one in the exhibition, a spider monkey that does have a corn cob where it is scratching its head. But this one looks like it's laying in a fetal position.
Mm.
Um, Now, solid gold. I mean, how is this done? This looks like it's been dead for a while, whatever it was, and they've made a cast of it and then poured liquid gold into it to create an exact representatory imitation of this dead creature. But
Mm.
how can they do that? I mean, to get
Well,
all the creases of the muscles and the degradation of muscle and tissue so perfectly, the eyes, I mean, you can even see here, even within the eyes, the wrinkles around the eyes. And they've got it pretty darn perfect. So I don't know how they did this, but still fascinating to say the least. You know, this is why we do this, so we can get people to question the narrative, question everything around you. Now look at this. Would you possibly say that this is connected, Bob, to astrotheology, astrosaurianism in some
most
way?
certainly, because what this initially looks like to me is, the original Eye of Horus.
Yes.
So if you sort of take
session.
that back, if
Clean
you
up.
actually understand where, because you've got 12 steps there, right? Now,
Yes.
if people actually understand where the word horizon comes from, right?
Yes.
Now, Horus, so was your one of the main Egyptian deities to do with the sun. So
Yes.
Horus, I, so it is I which is
That's right.
represented, and then
Yep.
On. Now, On is the Egyptian word for Heliopolis, city of the sun.
That's right.
And
City of the Sun.
when you go back in time, you had the 12 steps of Horus. So these were literally the 12 hours from sun up to sundown. Hence why you have an eye with 12 steps on it, because it is depicting light, and then you have another 12 hours of dark. So you've got balance. And there you go. Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. That just my phone just somehow logged into the other StreamYard without me touching it, and it gave us feedback.
Mm. Obviously, our friends
Curious.
at either the AFP or ASIO are having fun.
Ruffling a few feathers there, mate. We are. I love it. Hey,
But
Asio, read my lips.
yeah, but as I said, folks, have a good look at some of not only what's here, but have a good look into your theo astrology. The Bible literally
That's
is
right.
packed full of it.
Yep.
And yeah, just understand where some of these words have come from. And
Yes.
yeah,
Understanding syntax and phonology is the best thing. Is learning where the origin of words and how they're put together, grammar, syntax, and phonology. Yeah, because when you understand the origins of a word, such as Bob just pointed out with Horace and horizon, okay, this is how we understand how they use language against us as well, and how they weaponize words,
mm-hmm.
okay, for us to be confused with. Hence the reason what they tried to get away with for the last 2 years that we were all onto as well, because we understood syntax and phonology, phonetics. It's just the weaponization of words is quite easy to get by a person that is uninformed or has not done has a look at the information or researched any of this, and that's how the masses, unfortunately, were duped.
Mm.
Yeah, I will say it. Yeah. So yeah,
Um,
understanding your origins of words, people, is one of the biggest things you can do, because then
uh,
you'll never be confused by them weaponizing words against you.
yeah, for folks out there, go and research Jordan Maxwell. Uh,
Oh
sadly,
yes.
sadly, he has passed, but
Yep.
absolute massive amounts of knowledge, especially
Yes.
in the whole corporation thing on how they've duped people over the years. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, if you really want to know a lot about where words come from, how they're used, he is your man. Yeah, he had been studying this stuff for over 40 years, done
40
full on
years.
presentations and everything. And I'll tell you,
Yep.
he would certainly be one of the best out there.
Bless
And
him.
he will expose a huge amount for you.
Bless him, mate. Rest in peace, Jordan.
Absolutely.
Absolutely great teacher and mentor to myself as well. I learnt a lot about him back in the 90s. Back in the
Yes.
90s, I was listening to him. Now, here is one statue made of bronze that really baffles the crap out of me. This is one big, solid bronze piece of a beautiful black bear with an Indian rider with his swords drawn riding into battle. Clearly, at one stage in our past, as we have seen and been described to, that animals and man lived side by side and worked and lived amongst one another. there was a special inherent relationship where we once communicated openly and evenly with animals, whereas we do not do this today. But looking at this and how it is made, look at the beauty and wonder of this warrior going into battle on this beautiful, fully posed bear with his roar and his claws out. I mean, that's a lot of calcification on this. How was this done? Amazing indeed.
I mean, even just think, folks, trying to get the balance of a piece like that. So very, very tall. And yeah, to have that done so intricately with such a small footprint, as it were. Oh, sorry, my head of security is sounding off.
Sounds like head of security is going off there.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, he'd be lucky to pull off a rice pudding, but yeah.
Yeah. I'd just like to point out, too, if you look closely, too, at this individual, it has fangs. They are canine incisors on a human. So we need to ask this question now. Is this a human being? Or is this a different form of human being?
Gotta ask that
Looks
question.
like us.
Yeah.
You have to ask this question. Because clearly humans do not have canine fangs. Unless you're a vampiric of some sort, or you're a hybrid of some sort. Here's the side-on photo of that one-piece sculpture of Shiva facing down the seven-headed Hydra. I mean, it's massive. Absolutely massive in every way. There's an actual 3D print of it in the same room so that you can see it without the coral. I'll zoom this up for you so that you can see the beauty and wonder of this.
Wow.
I mean, look, absolutely amazing. Facing down this thing. Like, what the? How was it done? Indeed. Another one side on of the gentleman. Now we've got a video here. People would like you. I'm going to share this. I didn't realise it was coming up straight away. This is actually filmed straight off my TV, so I do apologise. Now I do think there is some volume with this. I'm pretty sure. I'll just look at my screen here. Have I got? Oh no, I've turned the volume off. Sorry. Sorry, everyone. This is where it's been exhumed from the bottom of the ocean. Just thought I'd record all of this and share a little bit of this with you so you can kind of share in the excitement of seeing something brought up from the bottom of the ocean that has not seen daylight properly for hundreds of years. But also so that you can see how a total piece, one piece of marble, can be sculpted into a full elephant skull. How can we do this? This video goes for 5 minutes, unfortunately, guys, but please bear with it because you'll see some absolute beauty in things that you've never seen before. Looking at this, you'd think it's an absolute elephant skull in every way, whereas it's not.
Okay, I can see it. Done that. Oh my goodness. Fantastic.
How is something like this made to have also the representations of where the nerves move in and out of the bones, and where
What you're looking at
certain
is
things are
the
attached.
skull of an elephant or great mammoth. It looks like it's man-made, carved out of marble. When the Greeks and Romans discovered fossil remains, they informed their popular beliefs. And it used to be thought, with skulls like this, with the large single cavity in the center of the face, that these gave birth to, or at least justification to the existence of Cyclops in mythological tales. I think it's an incredibly detailed example of the power of mythology.
So true.
One thing, history's always been rewritten and rewritten.
This is the
You know, the
statue of
solidity that we call
Pazuzu.
history is written from fragments.
Amazing. Look at him. That raised spine.
So as you can see, it's only a small statue.
Wow, look, you can see how this oxidized over there. It's been there for some time, it looks like. Human features with bestial traits, characteristic of the Mesopotamian demon.
Mesopotamia,
The
Babylonian.
question is, could this be the so-called Pazuzu demon?
In the 1920s,
Ask the questions.
British archaeologists were digging in the upper Tigris Valley of Mesopotamia. They discovered a small settlement along the banks of the river. And among their finds was thought by some to be a head of the Babylonian demon king, Pazuzu.
Stylistically, they both seem to be of a piece.
I remember when I first saw the demon, I was asking myself, why am I believing it? Am I believing it because it's got this missing part? You believe it because it's, you know, in a history of it travelling through time, through thousands of years, it's bound to have, you know, had accidents and mishaps. And I love the way that time can age it and deteriorate it. It's like the action of the world on this object. You realise that everything in the world is going to become fragments, and then you realise that that's really where belief lies, is between fragments.
And we thought he was, lost forever, and this could be him. And he's beautiful.
A cyclops, demons, unicorns. It did tell us a little bit about Amotan's character.
Two-headed dog from Greece. Clash of the Titans. Perseus.
I think he genuinely believed in monsters, he believed in cyclopses, he believed in
Three-headed,
unicorns.
sorry.
And I just think he was that type of a person. And I guess if you believe in them in the beginning, then you create things to justify their existence.
The beauty of these sculptures. Castings, I should say.
Whether it was this Amatan that Peter's talking about, or whether it's somebody else, these are not objects that are just randomly chosen.
No. He was a man of exquisite taste. Now you'll also see, everyone, that Barbie or Mattel invokes their hourglass shape originally from Egyptian statues.
I think if it was trade stuff, you'd see multiples of similar things. This seems to be more coordinated.
So here's this next one. Now, this is
And then
quite
we found something else.
extraordinary. This is about the boat, the
It
Epistos
was
now.
a huge surprise. A huge clue.
My God. This is a bolt that would have been used in the keel of a ship, 1st and 2nd century AD. And this is truly enormous for something of this kind. I've only ever seen a few examples from this era, but the biggest I've seen have been from a Roman wreck from the French coast at Madrid-Vigan. And that ship was big, but this is much bigger, and it's broken. At the end, you know, it's sheared off. So who knows what the actual size would have been.
Now, here we're going to see a recreation in a three-dimensional studio of what this
It's
possible
one
boat
bolt.
looked like.
Meant that we could, with the help of our colleagues from Southampton University, spend the whole winter recreating how the boat might have been built and what it might have looked like.
One of the biggest vessels that we have to compare it to is from south of France, Madrid-Vigan, and this is a cross-section through the bottom of that vessel. That's the bolt running right the way down there, and the one from your side is way, way bigger. So it's got to be coming off a much, much bigger ship. So we went through to some of the really standard iconography from the ancient world that gives us this idea of the recurved bows. That's consistent with the drag, and it's what they seem to be using on these really, really big merchant ships. What we got to with doing that was this.
So what are we talking about?
So 60 metres. 60 metres seat like that.
Bigger.
So, yeah.
Mm.
So really, really big. And we know vessels that big could have existed. You know, it's not outside the realms of the engineering capabilities that they had. You know,
That's
quite a
right.
lot of crew on this boat, a lot of big, heavy masts sailed. I thought we'd go a little bit further and start to look at the actual vessel sailing along. So we've just taken our basic reconstruction and we've given it the sort of CGI treatment for that. Yeah. And there it is sailing along.
That's impressive
And
by
you get
any
a real
means, isn't it,
idea of
Bob?
the scale of this capacity. The guy just out on the flying gallery at the front.
Definitely very, very
Quite
impressive.
simple. An enormous ship. We knew the ship was from, well, probably from the 1st or 2nd century. And so we knew that we were looking at, by far, the largest ship from that period to ever have been identified.
Amazing.
I was looking for records of an extraordinarily large ship. Even though import and export duties would have been levied and recorded very little survives. Shipping records for the East African coast during the 1st and 2nd centuries after Christ are virtually non-existent. There was nothing that helped me identify it. So I started looking into eyewitness accounts that would have recorded a monumental ship.
Oh, you lost audio there.
And that's how I discovered the story of Aulus Canisius Hamilton. As the legend goes, Hamilton was a man freed from slavery, and he developed this love of beautiful things and amassed this huge collection of treasures. He planned to build a monumental palace or a temple to house them all, and he built the Epistos, the largest ship known to man, to transport them all.
Absolutely love
On
this
this
music.
great voyage to the temple, the ship was struck by a storm, attacked by a giant sea monster, depending on what version of the story you read, and lost forever.
In the 1st century AD, one of the really popular genres of literature was collections of marvels, collections of interesting things that were said to have happened. But how many of these texts tell the truth, and the absolute truth is a very big question. I would say it's naive to take the story entirely at face value, but I wouldn't say it's naive to think that there is a kernel of truth in it somewhere. But how many pieces of art he had, what it was that he had, how far he sailed, why he sailed out, and all of that is the stuff that will have been legendized in the telling.
Okay. Pretty amazing, that alone, isn't it?
Very much so. I mean, that really raises some good questions out there.
It does, mate. It certainly does. I'm just trying to find my tab here. My tab's disappeared. It's supposed to be on this side. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, because even
Sorry, I'll just pause this. What's going on?
there we go.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah,
Are you sure?
Yeah. What I was going to say is, just for folks out there, also have a look at the Chinese civilization, not only the Egyptian,
Yes.
but because they travelled a lot further than what has also been reported. There is actually some stuff on YouTube with the unwritten history of New Zealand, which is actually very interesting. Where
Yes.
China has actually been down there with the remnants of Chinese junk up just off the harbour in Auckland. And and you'll never ever see that in the mainstream media because that suddenly now upsets the whole apple cart that the Maoris were the first into New Zealand. And
Yeah, that's right. So it does.
Just remember, folks, it's all about money. Follow that money.
Yeah. Follow the money trail, everyone. Absolutely. Money trail. It's key. Key to everything. Now, have a look at this here. This is absolutely amazing as a piece of gold and artwork. We all know who this is in history of ancient Greek mythology. How was this done?
I don't think anyone could ever imagine that something like this would happen to them. You dream about it, but do you honestly believe that it will? Probably not.
It's going straight into the water.
I mean, the amazing thing about the gold works that were found is that gold doesn't tarnish. So they're totally timeless. It's shining, it's sort of dancing in your eyes. You see it moving. The guy opens the case and it's gold shines on their faces. There are so many objects made of gold, and this collector who's obviously obsessed with this material. Gold makes people do crazy things, so it has done for years. There's a lot of blood associated with gold. Gold can drive people mad. I mean, who's to say what makes it like that? Is it just remembering some scarcity, or is it something naturally inside the metal itself?
Unbelievable. Got it?
This one's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
It's like an Egyptian cat, is it?
Egyptian cats. Egyptian cat, yeah. Wait till you see this come up into the sunlight. The music is what really sets this off too. It makes you very emotional because it connects us with our past from within. within.
Can't believe these things.
That's gorgeous.
If you rely on myth, if you rely on legend, people tend to not take you very seriously. But this vast amount of gold suddenly made my story come to life.
Tangible, believable, real. All right. Yeah, so I think it's the last video, either the last or the second last. Now they only go for a couple of minutes, these ones, because they're very short. But this is the exhibition for everyone to enjoy. The Oligarch exhibition. Beautiful. All the glory and sunlight.
There's your monkey.
This is the spider monkey that was holding the corn. Yeah. Amazing. I'd like to hope that someone is able to decipher the wording on this. Yes, this is the last video. Amazing. I do apologise for the lines on the screen, everyone. That's just amazing. Beautiful. It's Nefertiti. I love how they've used brown marble or brown-like substance stone to emulate their beautiful skin texture. Truly fascinating. And they really blew up Pazuzu, didn't they? I was curious as to why they would make that the centerpiece. Being Italy as well, not far from Rome, begs a lot to question.
Certainly does, especially if that's a demon.
Yeah. Why would they embody and invoke that to being the height of the actual exhibition and making that the centerpiece. She was fierce, Shiva, no fear. And these artworks are just the most amazing, beautiful things I've ever seen. They come from a time period that's not of ours.
Yeah, definitely an ancient art form that is long lost, that's for sure.
As you can see then, they showed you the Barbie hourglass Mattel figure type and how it's comparative to the body shapes of some of the statues from ancient Egypt. Yes, the bear. This is Pazuzu's head that was found in the desert dig outside the Tigris and Euphrates River. Upper Tigris River. It doesn't
Now
look
that
quite
raises,
human either, does it?
I was going to say that raises some questions.
Lots. Lots. I've never seen that form of stone before. Have you? That coloured stone? I've never seen that other than jade, but jade doesn't look like that.
No, but aquamarine or
aquamarine,
yeah, or turquoise are both blue.
Oh yes,
and
turquoise.
both are found in that part of the world.
That's a big solid piece of solid turquoise, and to make it like that, wow.
Yeah,
Figure two hands in the praying position.
very much so.
Here we go. Wow. You kind of get a bit of a scope and scale of this thing as you move towards it with the camera. And seeing the stairs beside it, you feel tiny in comparison to this. Large Buddha with spirals on his hands, which symbolize the portal, and on the knees.
But if you also look too, the spirals are an opposite to each other.
Opposites
on
to
his
each other,
hands.
yes. Now, this sculpture here is absolutely amazing. You'll see human forms all through this. Look at the face, showing the pain, the sorrow, the misery in these individuals. They've been captured like a photograph, but made in bronze. I mean, how is this possible? Look at the beauty of this baby, its cry, expressions. Amazing, truly. Hey.
Indeed.
So yeah, that's I gotta say, people, yeah, that's oh, I'm not able to somehow get out of there we go. Now there we go, people. I'm able to I'm not gonna somehow get out of there we go. Had to get out of there. But what did you think about that? I mean, what were your thoughts on some of that imagery then, Bob?
I mean, some of that stuff is absolutely mind-blowing. And yeah, more of that needs to get out onto the mainstream. But in saying that, I can see why it isn't, because that would throw some really, really huge spanners into the narrative, and into the workings of the narrative, without question. And these so-called scientists, they have a lot to answer. So I'm sort of I'm blown away. Like I've seen
It leaves
artifacts
a lot of
before,
questions.
but nothing like that.
Nah. That's why I thought it would be fascinating to bring forth tonight and talk a little bit more about and expose and show to the audience because as you said, it does need to be talked about. It needs to be seen. It needs to be openly discussed, and thought about logically, reasonably, with rationale. Who were these people? How did they achieve these things? What sort of technologies? What were the? How did they fabricate and create such beautiful wonders that are beyond the scope and scale of our creativity today? It's just, it certainly does blow you away. But if any of you want to ever travel overseas and you ever want to go see this awesome exhibition, it is open for display to the public. It's actually at the I believe it's called the Palazzo Grassi in Italy, Venice. The Palazzo Grassi. Okay, and you can go and see it anytime you want. But for me, I ask the questions now. Are these sorts of artworks made in the periods of antediluvian culture, or is it possibly Atlantean, Lemurian, from Dwarka, India, or a mixture of all cultures that created these beautiful things back then because we were one civilization. And these things were gathered and accumulated and amassed by this Amutan at this period in time from the previous civilizations by traveling the world. Like where did these things come from? Who created them? Yeah, big questions. Big questions. Now I was going to say also, in this for tonight, if you don't mind, people, whilst we're in the process of growing as well, if you don't mind, I am actually going to ask if anyone can just give the video a like tonight, because it does actually help the video get out to a much wider audience. Really, just due to the fact that the algorithms are really just a real pain in the bum at the moment, and just showing just what my phone did tonight, going on, showing this stuff as well, and talking with Bob openly about this stuff. They decided to try and interfere with us even before the show. They were trying to interfere a little bit. And that's the thing, the algorithms are always there to try and stop and shadow ban us from getting this information out. So, hence the reason why they don't have it on mainstream TV, and you have to come to shows like this to watch this information, or go and look it up and actually watch the documentary on YouTube. And thank you also, Chew. I will be putting that in the description as well, so that you can go and actually click on that later on. Okay, I'll update that after the show. But please just give us a bit of a like if you can, people. If you aren't subbed already, please hit the sub as well, because as I said, it just gets the video out to a little bit of a wider audience. I, on the other hand, really, at the end of the day, don't really care about subs and stuff like that. I mean, it's great to have subs and it helps the channel grow, but at the same time, I'm not fussed with an ego as such that I have to appease to constantly ask for things like this, because at the end of the day, I do this out of love, and I do this out of passion, and I do this to share with everyone, because everyone needs to basically just step back and look at this stuff, because really everything is a lie. So just hit that like and hit us a sub if you can, please, everyone. But in saying that, people, I've got to say we've been going for 2 hours and 9 minutes again tonight. It's almost the same amount of round time that we did last week, Bob. And I was going to say, would you like to maybe wrap it up? Have you got any special words that you might want to impart upon our audience this evening before we leave and wrap it up for this evening at all, mate? Anything special you'd like to share, or anything that's within yourself that's beautiful?
I'm absolutely sure I can come up with something, but I'd just like to say, thank you, folks, and start talking about this stuff more and more, because the more curiosity we can make people, the more curious people become, the more they will, start to look, and no matter what, this stuff has to get out. And the way the energies and stuff are around it at the moment, whether you realise it or not, folks, your Akashic record or all of your past lives are now starting to reattach to you. Now is not the time to sit on the fence. because I believe right here, right now, the fence is being shaken, and a choice is having to be made. Either you come into the new future, or you get left behind.
That's right. Absolutely.
It's I'd just like to say that in sort of parting, the world is a beautiful place, and the world that we think we live in is not. It is not told how it should be. The more people like us that come out there, start sharing not only what we remember of past lives and bring it forward, the greater the wealth of knowledge that will come out more and more to who we are. And from that, you have to know where you've been in order to know where you're going. Because without that, you're just a lost soul. And I'll leave you with that.
I couldn't agree more, mate. I couldn't agree more. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that, Bob. Yeah, because everyone just needs to just take those words and just incorporate and integrate that within yourselves. Because the more we learn, the more we open our minds and share this information, the more it gets out there. Absolutely. And just a little bit of an update too before we go, everyone, as well. I've got an awesome show lined up for everyone on the 26th. I've got the awesome and amazing Miss Elsa, or Mrs. Elsa Dillon of Spin Beans, from spinbeans.com, her website. If you don't know who she is, please go and check her out. Elsa is an amazing, beautiful individual with an amazing family and some amazing stories. Her whole family, everyone, is actually a family of experiences. They have all experienced connections with extraterrestrial entities, not of this world, and her children are very gifted in every way and also have been interviewed by the legendary Mary Rodwell. Now, for any of you that don't know who Mary Rodwell is, I'm asking you now, please, before the next show, go and have a look at some of Mary's work. Also have a look at spinbeings.com and have a look at Elsa's work and familiarise yourself with some of what she does and what her children are capable of doing and what they've already shown with Mary in the videos that they've been recorded with Mary. You'll see that these children are the most amazing, gifted individuals that I've ever come across. And Elsa's stories that she has about her children are just as fascinating as anything that you could possibly imagine. And Elsa is actually one of us. She's an Aussie and she lives in Byron Bay, and she's actually happy to join us on Australia Day, the 26th. So we'll be doing things that afternoon at around about 4 o'clock kickoff for everyone if you'd like to join us. It's going to be an amazing show. I can't wait for it. So just please head over to at some stage YouTube and hit just the notification bell for that, because that'll get you lined up, and so that when the show goes live, we'll be able to be with you and you'll be able to enjoy what we have to share. So yes, it's going to be an exciting show. So please just feel free to join us on the 26th, an Australia Day event. I don't celebrate mass genocide, so I chose to start the Australia Day, so to speak, with a beautiful polarization of frequencies and energies with a wonderful, awesome guest such as Elsa and her awesome information and stories about her family and her children, and it's going to be amazing. So please, if you can just join us, that'd be great. So everyone, Bob, I'd like to say good night. How's it been for you, mate? Have you enjoyed it all?
Another amazing show, mate, and looking forward to the next one.
Always, mate, as always. Well, everyone, I'll just say good night to you, and thank you all again for joining us with Starseeds and Patriots of Down Under and Bob this evening. As always, I'm just so blessed to just be joined by all of you, and I'm thankful to all of you just in every way. You are the reasons why we do this, and we do this out of love. And always remember, people, unlearn and discern. See you next time. Can't wait.
You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain, pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane, pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less, you check as I'm chess, what's happening next, yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson, he got a new engine from pain, it's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession, all in his possession. You got their attention, I'll leave an impression and take a redemption. Just kill, no discretion, your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression.